Hey everyone, my name is Max, and today we're going to work on part 2 of making a budget that works for you. Let's get started.
Back once again with the ill behavior, can you feel it? Nothing can save it, it's the A4 ally, D4 damager, O4 out of here, R for the renegade master of all I survey, take it straight out the sunstone, the rose to portray the sexual, exceptional, here to let you know that my flow is like, I got a mad style of frustration, just another product of the anger in the nation, now I get paid for my jazzy sensation, and I drop bombs for my...
Alright, welcome back everybody. If you did not watch the first part of this video, be sure to hit that link in the description or click the thumbnail that I'm going to put over the video and go watch that first, because that has important information on how this budget works and how you're going to use it to create expenses for yourself. Okay, so let's jump into the spreadsheet here and look at the rest of this. So just to recap, last time we worked on these first two blocks here and we talked about what they are and how to use them. So just to recap that real quick, these contributions here come from the contributions that you enter in here under the contribution column, and it's going to calculate your monthly and bi-weekly contribution. You will add these values to your balance every single time you get a paycheck, and that will keep these balances up to date, as the first case here, these milestone expenses will be balances that are kind of keeping you on track for expenses that you know are going to happen. And these allocation buckets in the blue here are going to be buckets of money that you have available to you when you want to spend it or when you need to spend it. An example of that would be buying some furniture at IKEA. You would use your home category money here where you have $300. You'll offset it by the amount that you spend and you're good to go. So let's move on to this green box here. So the green box is the part that integrates with Mint a little bit. So all of these numbers here are mainly for reference. And what I want to show here is why I've included it if they don't show up in the calculations, which you'll see later when we get to the bottom here. I kind of pull in all of these things. So this green box is reflective of what I have in Mint. And the reason I have that here is because I'm interested in these monthly totals and bi-weekly totals, because at the end here, you can see it's adding up all of these contributions here. That way I can see if my budget is actually balanced. So I can create all these buckets all day, but if the amount that I have to put into the buckets every 2 weeks or every month is more than I'm making, then it just doesn't make sense. So that's why I have them in there. But this Mint block here is going to be this is going to be your budget that you create in Mint. So these are things that occur more frequently, like groceries, gas, rent, your cell phone bill. They're things you don't want to track manually and enter into Excel, which is why I use Mint. Mint is really nice because it links to your credit card and your debit card, and it's going to track all these expenses and automatically categorize them. So if you ever need to look at those numbers or enter them into the spreadsheet for some reason, you don't have to go through your statement and add all of them up. You just look at Mint and it'll show you your expenses. The reason I don't use Mint for these other categories up here is because it's not very flexible in terms of one-off expenses or creating kind of custom buckets here. So if I wanted to use money for my home category and move it somewhere else because I needed more money there, Mint doesn't let you do that very easily. So that's why I kind of use a mixture of the two. So as you can see here, this works pretty similarly to the blocks that we looked at before. I have my contribution, my occurrence, and my monthly and bi-weekly contribution. Here, I'm not really going to modify any of these numbers or have to paste anything whenever a paycheck hits my bank account. So this is going to be something you kind of just leave alone and use for reference only, but it should match Mint. You're going to want these budget items to match these budget items here, and this doesn't match in this example, and that's because I just took a screenshot of Mint, and Mint does not match this budget for the video. But what you're going to want to do is just make sure that all of these categories are matching the ones in here. And more importantly, you just want the total to add up. If they're a little bit different, that's fine. But you want the monthly contribution to add up to the exact total that it does on Mint. And that's really important for this next part where we talk about kind of the calculation of the safe to spend number. So before we get to the safe to spend number, I want to talk about one more block here, which I've added recently, and this is called flex goals. So this is like your catch-all block of expenses that you want to put in here. So you can see I have wine country, Oktoberfest, and Christmas gifts, and a nice dinner. So these are just kind of like one-off goals. These are things that I want to have money for. You know, if I want to go to a nice dinner, I don't want to be caught off guard by that and say, oh man, I don't want to spend $50 on a dinner. Well, maybe I do want to do that, so I'll just change this to 0, and it's not really going to make that big of a difference when I'm calculating my save to spend number because I already had that money set aside. So I'm going to put that back here and just show kind of how this works. The way that this works is you put in the amount of money that you want to save for that expense, and then over here you put your start and end date, and the current date here is a formula similar to this one up here. And what this is going to do is calculate a percentage that is proportional to how far you are through your start and end date. And you can see here that, you know, I started this one on August 8th, and I want it to be done on October 18th. So it's 79% done. So what it does is it multiplies this contribution times 79% and puts that balance here. And all of these add up to a total, which is going to be factored into my save to spend. So this is really nice for things that you want to kind of set a date for and you want money to automatically be taken out of your save to spend so you can save for these occasions. And I recommend doing this for, you know, fun things kind of like what I've listed here. You can use this for whatever. So one thing that I'll do is if I have an expense that maybe my rent's going to be more or something this month, which is true. I have a roommate that's moving out, and I'm going to have to spend a little bit more to cover her portion. So maybe I'll put let's see, rent. I could put that value in here and say that's like an offset or something. So just to pull it out of my save to spend, make sure that I have that money untouched. You can also do that, and that's what I use this category for the most. I'm going to change this back to none because I don't have anything in here right now. But you can see for like the nice dinner, I don't have a start and end date. I've left those things out. I just said, yep, this is non-applicable, and I put $50 here. So this is a really flexible way to create your budget. So you can just kind of come in here and put whatever you want in here, really. So let's get to the save to spend portion. This is kind of the bread and butter of this entire budget and the reason you would even want to populate these blocks. So what this does is you enter in your net income here. So you're going to say, okay, my paycheck is $3,000. It's $1,500 every 2 weeks, however you want to split this out. And then these values are calculated from all of your expenses up here. And that's why I have the mint in here and all of these blocks, and they total up to these kind of subtotals here. And this is going to be the total amount of money you're spending, and this is going to be the total amount of money that you have coming in. So it's pretty simple here. You just add them together, and you have a final number here, which ideally is positive. You want that to be positive. If it's not, you need to adjust some of these things in your budget to make sure that you're getting a positive number here, but the bigger the better. So then to calculate your save to spend, what's ultimately going to happen here is it's going to pull all of these things together, and it's going to say, okay, how much money do you have in your account? How much money do you have set aside for things that you need to pay for in the future? And it's going to combine them together and give you kind of a pseudo balance of what you can actually spend or what money you actually have available if you want to go out and, you know, buy dinner or go to the driving range and hit some balls, whatever. You just want to make sure that you're staying within your save to spend number, and then you'll always have money available for the expenses that you've budgeted for. So the way that you do that is you put in your available balance here. So this is pulled directly from your checking account. Every checking account has it. It'll just say, here's what you have available to spend, and that brings in your pending charges and everything like that. So you want to make sure that you're pulling your available balance. And then your total mint budget is actually linked to this cell, and that's why I said I wanted it to be exactly the same as mint. So this should be exactly the same as your mint budget up here. And if you click on that, you can see it's a direct link. And then you're going to pull your total mint spend. So let me go back to this tab real quick. Again, these numbers do not match for this example because I can't really change my Mint login and create a whole new account and all that for this one video. Unfortunately, it's kind of a lot to create a Mint account. But what you're going to do is you're going to pull the $7 here. That's how much you've spent out of your budget. And then the $16.12 here is like your full amount that you have budgeted in Mint. So you're going to pull those two values here. And in this example, it's 18 and 14.93 respectively. And then after you do that, it's going to take your flex goals, your milestone expenses, and your allocation buckets from these three things up here and total them up. And what you're going to get at the end is total reserves, which is all of the money that you need to have set aside and not spend because you have it accounted for in your blocks above. And then the remaining Mint spend is actually going to be the amount of money that you have left in your Mint budget, because you need to have that set aside as well if you want to expect it to be available when you use more of your budget. So, you can't just say, oh, I've only used $18 in my budget, so I have plenty of money left. No, you actually care about the flip side of that. So if my budget is $1,000 in Mint and I've spent $10, that means I have $990 left in my budget that I need to have saved, set aside, because I need to be prepared to spend all of it. So that's kind of what this is. And at the very end, it calculates a safe to spend, which is ultimately just your available balance minus all of the stuff that you have to set aside. So theoretically, your safe to spend value is the amount of money that you can spend right now and still be on track to meet all of your goals. So that's why I like to use this number when I'm out and about, I'm shopping, doing whatever. This is the number that you care about. And I've even gone a step further here, and every time I get a paycheck, I enter my safe to spend on this line here, and then update all of my information in this spreadsheet. So what that does is it calculates a new safe to spend, and you're keeping track of your old safe to spend. And from that, I create what's called a marginal safe to spend. And that marginal safe to spend is the safe to spend money that if I keep this positive, that means my total amount of safe to spend is actually going to compound over time, and I will get a bigger and bigger and bigger balance of safe to spend money, which is good. I want to keep everything trending upwards, positive trends. You never want to be right on the edge or have any negative trends anywhere in your budget. So with that, that is kind of the conclusion of this video, and I'm going to wrap up here with a few tips that I have for you. So here are a few tips that I have for using this budget and interacting with it. One, assume expenses are larger than they actually are. This is going to make you feel like you're a little bit constrained, but ultimately in the long run, you're just going to have more money available, and you're going to have these days where you check in with your budget and you're like, wow, I didn't know I had extra money here. And that's good. You want to have that. So what you can do is you can take that extra money and then you just move it into savings. Or you can say, oh, I'm going to take half of this extra money, put it into savings, half of it I'm going to spend on something nice that I want. So those kind of things are good habits to keep you on track with your goals. The next thing here is make sure you're checking in often with this budget. I update this probably every 3 to 5 days, and I spend a little bit more time on it when I get my paycheck and make sure everything's all balanced out. So that's important for keeping in touch with your budget. And the last thing here is shift money when you need it. So what I mean by that is this budget is extremely flexible because you're in it all the time, you're interacting with it. So use that to your advantage. Take money from your home category because you don't need to go to IKEA all the time. Change that to 0 if you need more money. If you need more money in your health category here, I'm just going to change that to 900. Boom, I just moved money from one category to the other. My safe to spend balance doesn't change, but the amount of money I have available in a different category does change. So that's kind of where the power of this budget comes in and what you can do to stay flexible. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. If you liked this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys.